Welcome back to Fear Me It's Brie. We're on episode 41 today. I have a handful of things we're going to talk about that are not just, oh, Trump news again, indictment, oh, this. Obviously, there's stuff going on with that, but I don't really want to talk about that right now. It's just like, sometimes you get so exhausted hearing the same stuff over and over again that I just want to talk about something else. So what we're going to talk about is, yes, we're going to talk about Biden because allegedly he fell asleep while visiting the Maui incidents with the fires. And people are like, dude, you couldn't even stay awake for that. However, left-wing media sources are saying that, well, no, he didn't fall asleep. If you watch the video with a more clear resolution, you can see his eyes are open for the 7 seconds or whatever it is. So we're going to look at that and we're going to talk about that because both sides have a very no, he was asleep. No, he was not asleep. So we're going to see what we think after we examine the two sources that I have pulled up. We're going to talk about a New York Post article that I shared the other day, and I was like, what kind of propaganda conditioning fluff piece crap is this, called Why I'm Hoping for Another COVID Lockdown? And I will give them this. They do make some valid points about how when the world shuts down and you're kind of forced to spend time with your family, yeah, okay, you get closer. But all of the negativity that came from that, this does not negate that. And you don't need a freaking lockdown, government imposed stuff to do all of this stuff that this person mentioned. So I take issue with it, and we're gonna look at it. And we're also going to talk about Ahsoka, the new Star Wars show, because I watched it yesterday and I sat down thinking, oh, this is going to be a complete waste of time. Why am I doing this? And I actually enjoyed it. I started out being like, toward it and just not okay with it. But as the show progressed, I started to actually really enjoy it. I hope that it continues. What is there? 8 episodes, I think, that are going to be out. I hope that it continues to remain good because I like it so far. It was much better than I thought it would be, but it's also Disney Star Wars, which I have no hope for. So we'll see if I continue to keep my expectations low and be pleasantly surprised. We're going to talk about that. We'll probably talk about that first and get that out of the way, since that's not an article or anything. That's just me talking to you. So before I start going off on all of these things, you can find me on the social medias at Fear Me It's Brie. Pretty much every platform that's platformed, but the ones that I'm most active on are Twitter, where, fur flies and fist fights happen and all of the fun Twitter stuff, and then Instagram is a little more positive. I try and actually keep that one, not, obviously I share political stuff on there, but a little more positive, because there's enough negativity, I feel like, online, and Instagram's more fun for me. So I just post pictures and memes. And sometimes if there's something ridiculous that needs to be shared, politically or whatever, I'll share it there. But I'm trying to keep that one less polarized, I guess is what I'm saying. So yeah, you can follow me on those places. I guess it's time to start talking about Ahsoka. So I sat down last night to watch it, and I just walked in. My husband was playing, what is it? It's that Pathfinder computer game, Kingmaker? Is that what it's called? But anyway, he was doing that. Lately I've been playing The Witcher 3, so I'll play that on the Xbox, and he'll play his thing on the PC, which is nice because we can not have to wait for the other to be done with the console, so we can both play what we want to play. So I came in, he was playing that, and I was like, hey, I think I might actually start watching Ahsoka. Do you care if I start it without you? And he didn't, so he went to bed eventually, and I just sat down and watched it because he had to get up for work this morning. And I actually really liked it. So I started out watching it, and I was just like, what the heck? And yeah, there are spoilers, so you've been warned. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I sat down and I turned it on, and I thought it was interesting. The beginning was a shot-for-shot remake of The Phantom Menace, except that, so in The Phantom Menace, right, we have Qui-Gon and we have Obi-Wan, and they show up at the Trade Federation blockade and they come in to negotiate or whatever. So the two of them fly up and you see them being like, oh, they're not negotiators, they're Jedi, and like something happens and they fight and all of that jazz. So in this, it was the exact same thing, but opposite, where the blockade or whatever, it was a prison ship, I think, that they were arriving at, was run by the former rebels, so the New Republic, and the two people that were coming to inspect it or talk to the prisoner or however it was were Jedi, but the commander of the prison was like, yeah, I don't think that they're Jedi. We're gonna go check that one out. And they weren't. They were a Sith, I guess Sith, but they were like at least a dark Jedi, and his apprentice just kind of like flip-flopped, reversed of how in The Phantom Menace it was Qui-Gon and his apprentice, the Jedi and the apprentice. It was Ray Stevenson's character, who is one of the best parts of the show. It's very sad that he's passed away, and I was just looking into it again, and it looks like there's no cause of death still that's been announced, but it was while he was filming whatever that project was that he was working on at the time. He was like rushed to the hospital or something, and they haven't released cause of death, but he's one of the best parts of it. I really enjoy him in this. I think he's great. I wasn't impressed at first about how it felt kind of like Palpatine and Darth Maul all in The Phantom Menace all over again, where I was like, really? We're gonna go this storyline again? Obviously he's the bad guy when he walks up and seems like, oh, it's the Jedi and his apprentice. Well, obviously he's gonna be bad. I mean, look at that girl's eyeliner that's with him. She's clearly evil. And people have said that the girl that plays that apprentice character, they were like, is that Billie Eilish? But it's not. But now that I've heard that, I can't unsee it. So they show up and they wreak some havoc on everything, and the prisoner gets released, and then it plunges into the storyline with them being the main antagonists, and a witch lady from Dathomir that I didn't verify this, but I'm pretty sure the actress who plays her is the girl from Witcher Blood Origin, and I hated that show, so it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth seeing her in this, but she's fine in this. I like her in this. So they show up, they do all this stuff, and eventually, obviously, that pulls Ahsoka and the former Rebel Alliance all into this, because the prisoner, I think, had information on the whereabouts of one of the last Grand Admirals that's out on the loose from the Empire, which would be Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I personally liked Timothy Zahn. Did I say that right? Timothy Zahn? I get him and Steve Zahn confused, and Steve Zahn is the actor. So Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire series was very good, and it basically was about Grand Admiral Thrawn being out there and Luke and Leia and Han stopping them right after the fall of the Empire. In this, they've changed it, and they've made it so that it's Ahsoka who's going after Thrawn. It's Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels. It's Hera Syndulla from Star Wars Rebels. And I actually really like the tie from Star Wars Rebels and bringing it to live action. I think they did a really good job with that, because I didn't like Rebels Season 1. It came out in 2014. I didn't like it. I enjoyed the Clone Wars and had watched all of that leading up till then. And then I started Rebels and I was like, ugh, this just too childish. I can't do it. So I stopped watching it for like years. And then after my husband and I got married, he was like, no, you should finish it, because it starts out that way in the first season or two. But once they the audience probably that they geared it towards started maturing and getting older, kind of like what they did with the Clone Wars, and kind of like what Harry Potter does, where it starts out very childish but leads up into some pretty intense stuff. He was like, it does the same thing. So if you can get through those seasons, we can watch it through and you'll probably really like it. So that's what we did, and I did really like Rebels. So I like seeing those characters come back. And I think they did a really good job adapting them for live action. The girl who plays Sabine is perfect. What's her name? Mary Elizabeth Winstead is good as Hera. She's not as snarky and sassy as Hera, but she reminds me of if Ruby Rose was a more likable person mixed with Kobe Smulders from The Avengers, who plays Maria Hill. I really like the characters. Ahsoka, I'm having a very hard time with, because I like Rosario Dawson in the Daredevil Marvel Universe from Netflix. I don't like her as Ahsoka. Seeing her in Mandalorian left a bad taste in my mouth. I don't like Mandalorian. I don't like any of the other Star Wars shows. I stopped watching Mandalorian, which I think I've talked about. It just wasn't doing it for me, and it just was going downhill fast. And I just felt like it was a bundle of crap. So I wish that they took Ashley Eckstein, I think her name was, who voiced Ahsoka in the show, and brought her into the live action, because she could have easily done it. I've seen her like cosplayed as Ahsoka, and it was great. She could have easily played the character with a Disney budget. So I'm disappointed in the casting of Ahsoka, but I still think it is what it is, and I'll adapt to like it, I'm sure. I do like that Dave Filoni is heavily involved, and I think that's why I like it. If it wasn't him at the helm, I'm pretty sure that I would just be like, nah, toward it. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It feels very prequel nostalgia. Like, it feels like The Phantom Menace, which at first I was kind of like, another copy and paste, just like how The Force Awakens was a copy and paste of A New Hope. But it does have its own story directions that are not the same. There was one part, though, that I was laughing at, because in The Phantom Menace, when they're hiding out on Tatooine, Darth Maul shows up with like a tracker droid or something, and he's there and he talks to it in the sand with his cape blowing in the wind or whatever, and he tells it, like, it's telling him where they are, so he's like, all right, I'm gonna go find them. They literally have that exact scene with the apprentice girl, the Sith apprentice girl, and she's standing there and her hair's like blowing in the wind, and I think it's like even like evening like it was in the other one, and it shows up and it's like telling her where they are, and she just turns to like go get them, and then the screen pans over to the next scene, and I'm like, that was a shot for shot exactly the same as, and she's doing the same thing. She's trying to find someone who's hiding out somewhere. So that was kind of annoying to me at times that they did that. But at the same time, I'm liking it. I love the soundtrack. The score is really, really good. It's really growing on me, and I can't download it anywhere. I'm hoping that it shows up on Amazon, because like the Mandalorian soundtrack did, so I don't know why this didn't. But I enjoy the music immensely. I'm liking it a lot. And I'm shocked to say that. Ray Stevenson was one of the best parts of it. I think he's great. His villain arc. I was annoyed at first. His villain arc was basically like Palpatine, where it's like, oh, obviously this is the bad guy, but he's doing it well enough that I'm okay with it now. It's very sad that he's no longer with us. So I'm assuming Ahsoka is supposed to be a miniseries. So I assume his character gets taken care of, and either, they're going to probably fight, and either he gets killed or like they imprison him or something. I'm assuming they tie it up at the end, because if there's going to be another season of this, or if this storyline goes into something else, they're going to have to deal with either recasting or somehow getting the character out of the show, because we no longer have him, which is sad. But I really like him in this show, and I was at first like, this is going to be his legacy, because this probably is one of his last projects. And I was just like, that stinks for him, that's how he's going to be remembered. But the more I'm watching it, the more I'm like, okay, this is okay. This, I guess, isn't that bad to have as one of your, your last projects. But there's things I don't like about it, but there's a lot of things that I do like about it. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I don't want to say that, because now it's going to be terrible and I'm going to regret everything I've just said. But I think if you like the prequels, you will like it. Again, I'm kind of annoyed that they took the Admiral Thrawn storyline, and gave it to these characters and not the characters it belonged to. But you really can't do that, because you can't have an AI Luke Skywalker carry the entire series. It worked in Mandalorian for a couple scenes, or the scene where he shows up and takes Grogu. It kind of worked in the Book of Boba Fett, but it was jarring and kind of creepy, where it was like Luke was just like, you could tell he was an AI, and it was just uncomfortable. So I don't think you could carry a show with that and have it be successful at this point in time. So they had to adapt to, those actors are all way too old to be playing themselves at like 30. So you got to do what you've got to do. But I am still a little ticked that they took the storyline. It's kind of like what they did with Kenobi, which I hated. Obi-Wan Kenobi. There was a book, I think I've mentioned this, called Kenobi that came out right around when Disney bought everything, and they decided those were no longer canon and they wanted to start from scratch and rewrite stuff. Kenobi was a great story about like, oh, what was he doing on Tatooine when Luke was a child? And it was amazing. They should have just made that the show. They didn't. They tried to do their own thing and it was terrible. So I wish with Thrawn they could have done that. But again, I get why they can't. The actors are too old. But all of that said, it was very interesting and I am curious to see where it goes. And I get why they're doing the Thrawn storyline, because in Rebels, that was a storyline that they pulled over and used, and they're continuing it, but live action. So I'm hoping it stays as interesting as it was. I will say, though, as far as Star Wars goes, I'm way more excited to see Netflix's Rebel Moon than I am Star Wars. Like, I'm glad I watched Ahsoka. It was interesting. I plan on continuing it, but it's not something that I'm like, I can't wait to find out what happens next week. But the Rebel Moon Part 1 that's coming out in December looks like what Star Wars could have been if they gave it to somebody like Zack Snyder. Oh, that's the other thing. So Ahsoka also feels more linear than, say, Kenobi. Or Kenobi kind of had this feel, but they didn't do it as well. Kenobi or Mando or Boba Fett. Oh, I hate that show. All of the Star Wars shows that I've watched don't feel linear. Like, they feel like standalone episodes. This feels like a movie broken up into parts. So like if you were to watch, say, the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, where it's very long, you almost could look at it as like, what, 6 episodes, because it's broken up into like 6 parts because of how long it is. That's kind of how this feels, where if Ahsoka just continued without stopping, you could have like part 1 and then like an hour later, part 2. And then like, you know what I mean? Like it feels more like a linear movie. Maybe it's just because the first 2 episodes were so well connected, it might change, but I don't think it will. So I love visually, it's stunning. It looks really good. And I love everything about how it looks. And I think the flow of it as I almost said movie, but as a show, I think it flows into the next episode very well. So I'm hoping it continues that as well. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. I don't know if I'll talk about it every week, but so far that is my thoughts on that. I do think it is worth a watch. I know it's Disney. It's going to be like, it's a needle in a haystack when it comes to them producing good stuff. But I thought it was pretty good, just like how I thought Guardians 3 was actually very good and very well done, even though everything that came before that in the MCU since Endgame has been utter garbage. Guardians 3 was enjoyable and likable, and I actually teared up at a few parts. But I understand that probably everything from that movie on will be utter crap. And probably with Ahsoka, everything from that movie on will be utter crap. So, utter crap. Well, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about that because that was a long rant on that movie. It wasn't really a rant, I guess. It was more of a, hey, if you have Disney Plus, watch it. I also plan on watching Loki, and I enjoyed the first season, flaws and all. I think that's the only show, though, that I like that Marvel's put on Disney. I'm going to watch season 2, but I'm not watching any trailers or anything just because I want to kind of go into it with some kind of like, oh, wow, that happened. Because I hate how like trailers are literally just, hey, here's the plot of the movie condensed down to 30 seconds. And they just give everything away. So I'm not watching anything on it except for the show. So that will be interesting to see. I'm hoping I like season 2 because I liked season 1. But anyway, we're going to move on from that topic. And those are my thoughts on Ahsoka. And we're going to go over to the Daily Mail because that's where I have an article about Biden allegedly sleeping on the job is located. So, Biden is accused of nodding off during Maui wildfire memorial service in the middle of his disastrous 5-hour tour of the island. And it sounds like that tour of the island did not go well for the man. Joe Biden has been accused by conservative critics of nodding off during a Maui wildfires memorial as he appeared to drop his head for several seconds while listening to a speaker, compounding anger at his error-filled 5-hour visit. The 80-year-old and his wife Jill arrived in Maui on Monday to tour the areas devastated by the August 8th wildflowers. Granted, there's a lot of vitriol toward him right now when it comes to the Maui stuff, because when, he was asked, "Sir, what are your thoughts on the Maui wildfires?" He just turned and said, "No comment," and kept going. And people were like, no comment is the best that you can do? Granted, if you don't have a statement prepared or you were told not to give a statement yet, the least you could say is it is a very sad situation. We are working on it. Just something other than no comment, because that's just not right. But so he already has that going against him. So I can understand why this is blowing up and people are upset about it if it's true. But I'm having a hard time confirming that this is true when supposedly there's proof that it's not, and that's what we're going to look at as well. Biden did little to endear himself to the traumatized islanders, delivering a rambling speech referencing the death of his wife and baby daughter in 1972, and later telling an antecedent about a kitchen fire 2004 in his Delaware home. Meeting one of the rescuers, Biden then made a clumsy joke about needing protective footwear, telling the worker hot ground. His appearance at the memorial gave further ammunition to critics. So yeah, I heard that, so Biden allegedly told the story about how he was like, "Oh yeah, I had a fire in my home and yeah, so devastating." And I guess people have come out and been like, that was fact checked. It was a small kitchen fire, wasn't devastating. You cannot compare something like that to this devastation that these people are facing, because there is no comparison there. So he fudged that. I'm not sure why he thought that was a good idea to bring up. So I guess this is him looking down. This is the video, and I guess people are upset by it too, because if you think about it, I don't want that. No, stop it. I think we have to watch the ad, so I'm going to mute it somehow. When we had the funeral for the soldiers and he looked at his watch and he's already shown that. Here's the thing. Whether or not Biden fell asleep during this is not the issue here. The issue here is that he has given himself the reputation to have done this kind of thing, where he's shown he doesn't care when he's at these events. He seemed to have shown that he checks the time. It's when are we going home? He makes inappropriate jokes at these things. He's not there mentally, whether or not that's on purpose. And the issue isn't whether or not he did. The issue is he did to people who know that he has given himself the reputation of doing this, so he did to them. So he's already shown he has a track record of this kind of thing. And when you've shown that you have a track record of this kind of thing, it doesn't matter if you've done it or not. Online, people are going to say, well, he did, because we've seen him do it in the past. And that's going to ruin your credibility as the president of the United States, as a journalist, as this, as that. When you have a track record of doing one thing, maybe you didn't do it just this once, but it's really hard for people to believe that you didn't, if that makes sense. I'm going to turn down the audio output on the video and quickly get through this unskippable ad, and then I'll play that video. And I don't know what the ad is, so I'm just going to bring myself back up to the forefront just in case it's something that I don't.
Breast cancer is now the most common
Breast cancer.
diagnosed cancer.
I'm trying to get through this ad and it's just not letting me, so that I can show you the Biden video. That's why I went silent. I had to turn everything down because it doesn't even let me mute the ad. But I guess we won't look at that then, because I can't figure it out. Biden also sat listening while the speaker told of generosity among the islanders. Like many others who were left with nothing, those two were given clothes. food and shelter by someone they may have never met before, the speaker said. Biden then coughed, hand over his mouth, and looked down. So this is the speaker speaking. This is what Biden was seen to have done. We're a community that relies on family on Ohana, whether by blood or by friendship, the speaker continued. Biden then nodded and looked up. And like many others, my son's home burned down, the speaker said, as Biden's eyes reverted to the front. My daughter's home burned down. My home burned down. Critics say that Biden was asleep for 9 seconds as he looked down. Joe Biden falls asleep in Hawaii while meeting with survivors, tweeted Richard Grenell, who briefly served as Donald Trump's acting director of national intelligence. And then I guess the quote continues, Democrats, but Trump. So I guess as his motorcade went through Maui, we had people flipping him the birdie, yelling at him, thanks for nothing, F you, thanks for nothing, F Joe Biden, as some of the things that were shouted at him. People watch as the motorcade carrying President Joe Biden visits areas devastated by the Maui wildfires passing by. One local gives the president a thumbs down. People protesting. Hey, people watch as the motorcade carrying President Joe Biden visits devastated areas. Mr. President, listen to the people. That's him walking with Jill. Some tweets about it. Andy Ogles said, imagine the president of the United States falling asleep while you're describing the effects of the deadliest fire in the last 100 years. This is absolutely disgusting. Biden should resign from his post immediately. DC Drano said, remember that time Joe Biden looked at his watch where the caskets of 13 dead soldiers were being returned from his chaotic Afghanistan pullout? Well, now he just fell asleep during a ceremony in Hawaii honoring the hundreds of Americans killed by fires. I'm going to pause. No, I'm not. There's no sound, so it's fine. Imagine the president of the United States falling asleep. Okay, yeah, we just read that. Troy Niels, a Republican congressman representing Texas, also shared the video on his Twitter, with a spokesman for Niels saying that it was up to the public to decide whether Biden was asleep for 9 seconds. And that's what I said. It's up for interpretation is what it looks like. Unless I get some definitive proof that it actually happened. But like I said, the public knows that there's a track record here. The public knows that this guy's done stuff like this before. The public knows that this guy doesn't really care. So to the public, it happened. Everyone with eyes can draw their own conclusion about whether President Biden was nodding off in the video, the spokesman said. White House spokesperson Andrew Bates said the commentary was ridiculous. It is unfortunate they need to feel the need to lie, he said. Instead, they should join him in supporting the people of Maui. This is his speech. I'm going to turn it down and play it. See if I can get that to work. We might get... There we go.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday. And lightning struck at home on a little lake. It's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond. And hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct.
So first of all, he's very he's slurring things. It wasn't a lake, it was a pond. So this is the story, I guess, that he told where he was like, hey, I know how you guys feel. And it just didn't go well with the audience because they were like, no, you don't know how we feel. So I'm going to finish playing that. I just need to pause it every now and then because I've gotten copyrighted for playing things from like news organizations before. So I'm going to turn myself back down and I'm going to play that so we can finish it out.
To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside, I watched the firefighters, the way they responded. You know, there's an old expression. I grew up right across the street from a fire hall in Claymont, Delaware.
Okay, I'm sorry, but saying, I just don't like that he said, I almost lost my car. It's like, all right, yeah, I mean, but one, apparently supposedly, like, this has been fact checked and it actually wasn't that bad. It was a kitchen fire. It sounds like it, obviously any kind of house fire could be dangerous, but it sounds like there was no immediate threat of losing your wife. And not to mention, I don't like that he said, oh, I almost lost my car too, and then like giggles a little bit, because it's like, yeah, these people lost more than their cars, sir. Like, that's out of touch with the people that you claim that you represent. It feels out of touch because you're like, oh yeah, I'm some rich guy with a Corvette from this year, and I almost lost it in a fire, but you know, you lost loved ones and your homes and your town. So it's like, that is not comparable to their situation. So I just, ooh, that was poor taste of him. Let's continue on to the next part of the video.
And the expression is, God made man, then he made a few firefighters. You're all crazy, thank God. The only people who run into flames to help other people. And they ran into flames to save my wife and save my family. Not a joke. The smoke, and the firefighters here can tell you, sometimes smoke is so thick from the windows out, it was that thick inside the home. And we were insured. We did not have any problem. But being out of our home for a better part of a year was difficult. I can only imagine what it's like to lose your home completely, burned to the ground.
That almost felt like he was like rubbing it in their face. Your home, it's lost, it's burned to the ground. Oh, yeah, no kidding, sir. So poor taste. It was a very poor taste speech, I think. I think that could have, and the fact that, not a joke, how often has he said that? It just blows my mind. Yikes. So this is a car. The X spray painted on the side means it's been searched for human remains. He's talking to the governor and FEMA administrators. Here's Biden making a hot ground joke to the rescuer as he visits Maui. I'm going to play that so that we can hear it, because I think we need to hear that with our ears.
For toddlers, everyday life is their big adventure to learn.
I guess we're going to watch this ad first. So I'm going to mute everything. Play the ad about toddlers, and then I will play the video of Biden. I cannot get these ads to skip or like mute for some reason. So I'm just going to mute the mics so that we don't hear it.
What's the boss's name? I said, how you doing, pal? Got the boots on too. You guys catch the boots out here?
What's the dog's name? What's the dog's name?
That's the hot ground, man.
Dexter.
Hello, everybody. All right, Chris, we're going to jump ahead to the next spot, okay, guys? Thank you. Thanks, guys. We're going to present for remarks, Chris. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
So yeah, that's kind of awkward. It's hot ground, man. Hot ground. Like, yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Okay. As of Monday, there were 115 people confirmed dead, according to Maui police. All single-story residential properties in the disaster area had been searched, and teams were transitioning to searching multi-story residential and commercial properties, Maui County officials said in an update last Monday. There are widely varying accounts of the tally of the missing. Hawaii's Governor Josh Green said there are more than 1,000 remained unaccounted for. Maui Mayor Richard Bisson said in a pre-recorded interview on Instagram the number was 850. And during President Biden's tour of the devastation on Monday, White House Homeland Security put it between 500 and 800. So we just don't know. Yep. All right. Now we're going to hop over. I don't need to scroll to the top, actually. I'm just going to do this. We're going to go over to an NBC article that is the totally opposite point of view from what I just read to you. Not that Daily Mail was saying he fell asleep, because they were kind of like, yeah, it's open to interpretation. But this NBC one is like, he did not fall asleep. So we're going to look at that point of view as well and contrast it to what most of the conservative commentators are saying. He fell asleep. So we're going to go there. Conservative pundits falsely claim Biden slept during Maui fire memorial. So what's interesting is Daily Mail kept up with the, allegedly thing where, they're not going to say whether or not, open to interpretation. NBC starts right off the bat with, that's false. It's totally false. So we'll see. We'll see if they're right. Using low quality video that distorts how Biden appears, pundits made the false claim go viral on social media. Conservative pundits used low-quality video on social media platforms Tuesday to spread false claims that President Joe Biden fell asleep during a memoir for Maui wildfire victims. Fox News host Sean Hannity was among those who shared low-resolution videos on X, the social media app formerly known as Twitter. I'm just going to keep calling it Twitter until it becomes normal to call it X, I think. Hannity's post was viewed more than 425,000 times within a few hours, and similar posts and videos by others received thousands of more views on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Higher resolution video from the nonpartisan network C-SPAN shows Biden looking downward for about 10 seconds while he was seated at a table. In the video, Biden watches someone who's speaking, coughs, looks downward, nods in agreement with the speaker, looks up again, and later delivers a speech to the same audience. The higher resolution video shows Biden keeps his eyes open for most of the time he's looking downward. His open eyes aren't clearly visible in the lower quality videos. So that makes sense. If it was grainy, I can see why somebody would be like, is he sleeping? Because, one, again, track record. Two, it might look that way. I'm curious, though. At least one member of Congress, Representative Troy Niels, also shared the low-resolution version on X. A spokesperson said in a statement, everyone with eyes can draw their own conclusion. We read that through the other one. As for comments about the Maui videos, White House spokesperson Andrew Bates said in an email, it's unfortunate they feel the need to lie and said they should join him in supporting the people of Maui. Low quality videos are examples of what some misinformation researchers call cheap fakes, media that can mislead people through simple techniques, even amid growing concerns about more advanced ways to create misleading content through generative artificial intelligence. Also well known and involved. Nancy Pelosi claimed at one point that they'd slow down a video to make it sound like she was slurring her words. Okay. Republicans have been aiming to defeat Biden in next year's presidential election, have focused on signs of age, concerned that widespread even among Democrats. Biden, 80, has responded by increasingly cracking jokes about his age, while his advisors appear to be taking steps to minimize the job's physical toll, including using fewer stairs. Oh boy, goody. At least, if he falls, he will get less hurt because he doesn't have to tumble down stairs. Maybe just install some ramps. I don't know. Trump has a wide lead in the national and state polls. All right, I want to see, do we have that video that they're talking about? Did they not share the video? Because I would like to see this higher resolution video. This is the
this
only
morning
video
on Maui
that they're sharing. I'm going to make it like that.
We're 2 weeks after those search.
I want to see if I can go through this, and they claim that there's a higher resolution video out there. Where is it? So if I can find the higher resolution video of him falling asleep, not falling asleep, that would be very helpful. Looks like this is just a... Yeah, it's him talking, making comments again. Him and Jill. Yeah, it looks like they do not have... It's very interesting that they claim that there is a video out there that exonerates... no, he didn't fall asleep. It's low quality. But they they don't actually... Okay, here we go. I stand corrected. Here we go. Supposedly, this clip, title, and description were not created by C-SPAN.
Like many
Here we are.
others,
I'm going to pause my sound so that the only sound is coming from the video, and we'll see if it looks like he fell asleep.
who left with nothing, they too were given clothes, food, and shelter by someone they may have never met before. We are a community that relies on family, on ohana, whether by blood or by friendship. But like many others, my son's home burned down. My daughter's home burned down.
Yeah, no, his eyes were open the whole time. So I'm gonna have to side with NBC there that it seems to be false information. I cannot confirm nor deny that because I was not there, but you can see the little slits unless the video was edited by C-SPAN to make it look like he was awake, which can't say they did, can't say they didn't. But I don't think, personally, I don't think that he fell asleep. He looks like he was awake. He might have been looking at something. He looked confused. You know, his eyes were slits, but they were open. Could have been nodding off, might not have been. Oh, it's open to interpretation, but they were at least open. I think he was looking at something maybe in his lap, maybe his phone, but I don't think he was asleep. So I think that the conservatives jumped on that, and I don't know if they should have jumped on that as heavily as they did. So, but again, like I said, he has built a reputation, and he has built a, what's the word? He's built a reputation. He's built this track record up. So whether or not he fell asleep right there, he fell asleep to most of the country, right? So they're going to just know that he's done that in the past. So why wouldn't that be a possibility? That's what they're going to choose to see. And that's how they're going to remember him, unfortunately. Because of just when you have a track record in today's internet world, and you have tendencies to do one thing, you're going to be remembered for those things. So anyway, that was interesting. I'm glad that I noticed that was highlighted, because at first I was like, they didn't even post the video. There were user clips as well. So the thing is, the clips that they're sharing, they are user clips that were put here. They could have been altered. They could have been edited. I don't know. So that is very interesting, though. From what I just saw in that video, it does not look like he was asleep, but it does look like he was distracted and confused at the very best. So that's that with the Biden stuff. It is almost the 45-minute mark. I'm almost wondering if I should save the New York Times article for tomorrow and throw that in when I jump on tomorrow. I might do that. Tomorrow, I will try and remember that we're going to look at New York Post. We're going to look at the New York Post, why I'm hoping for another lockdown article. We will do that tomorrow. I will probably lead with that just because it's interesting to me and it's someone's opinion piece that I myself have an opinion on. So we'll look at that tomorrow. I should probably jump off and get the stuff I need to get done today. So I can't remember if I mentioned this in the intro or not, but on Saturday night, so tonight, obviously you're watching it, I did a show. We're going to be doing an episode tomorrow night with what I just mentioned, plus more. And then on Saturday night, I'm going to be doing a Twitter space with Frida. I believe on Twitter, her handle is The Base Babe. I don't remember what her show is called off the top of my head. I think it's Finding the Faith, and I'm sorry, Frida. I just butchered it, I'm sure. And she and I are going to be doing a Twitter space where we talk about I like to emphasize secular red pill trad movement, because I've had a lot of people come to me and be like, hey, but I thought, being traditional was good. Isn't the move back toward traditionality a good thing? And yes, it is. However, there are secular forms of the traditional movement, the trad movement, that are more harmful than they are good. And as a wife, Frida has opinions on it. As a wife and a mother, I have opinions on it. And we are being continually told online by the red pill trad movement crowd, well, you're wrong. And it's like, why? And they don't answer you. Well, you're wrong because this. And it's a lot of people that you can talk about something. You can talk about marriage and not be married. You can talk about child rearing and not have children. You can point people to resources. But as two people who are experienced in, for me, being a wife and a mother, and for her being a wife, and one day, she would like to be a mother, we have opinions on it. Because why are our opinions being schluffed aside? We're being told we're wrong and we're not being told why we're wrong. And why are these people so hell-bent on saying this is what something is, who have no experience with it whatsoever? And then when somebody who does have that experience, not just us, but all kinds of women online who are wives and mothers, come out and say, actually, as someone who lives that lifestyle, that's not correct, and I'd like to point out why, we get told that we're feminists. We get told that I'm not going to verbatim quote it, but I got told that I was a dumb effing B-word because I said I gave my opinion on what biblical marriage should look like. So we're going to be talking about that biblically from a Christian standpoint, what marriage looks like, what being a wife looks like, the role of wives, the role of mothers. We're going to be speaking about that. That will be at 10 p.m. on the place formerly known as Twitter, called X. So we're going to be doing that there, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm not sure how long it will run. Would love to have everybody join us there. I will be hosting it, and I have been in Twitter Spaces, but I have not hosted Twitter Spaces, so pray that everything goes okay for me, because things don't like to work out for me sometimes when I try and do things with technology. So if that all works out well, yay. It depends on how many people listen, obviously. I'm not expecting like a ton of people or anything, but if anyone wants to jump in and speak and throw their opinions out, I will allow that. I'm not sure how I'll format it though, but definitely, it will be a good time and we would love to see you there. So I'm going to stop talking about it because I'd like to save some stuff for that event. But you can catch that on Saturday night, and I'm going to let everyone go. I just hit the microphone with my chin, sorry. So hopefully everybody has a great afternoon, evening, whatever time it is now. I'll see everyone again tomorrow, and I will see everybody you won't see me, but you will hear me on Saturday night.